Welcome back to my weekend adventures in Norfolk. Over the last couple of videos I've shared the tiny home holiday cottage that we're staying at, taken a boat tour to Blakeney Point to see the seals, and explored wells next to the sea on foot. Today I'll be taking to the waters once more, but this time we'll be in control of the boat. We'll be using it to explore the web of lock-free waterways that are difficult to discover on foot inside the Norfolk Broads National Park. This video is split into two parts. First of all, an overview of the boat and the rental procedure, and then later, my experience out on the Broads themselves. Today we have come along to the Norfolk Broads, and to really shake things up we've done something that we've never done before, and we've decided to rent a boat. It's just a day boat, so it doesn't have anything like a toilet or a kitchen or bedrooms or anything like that on here, and it wasn't cheap. I'll definitely say that to start off with. So we are paying £130 for the boat for the full day. That's giving us 7 hours. We could have had it for up to 8 hours, which would have been 135, but we just wanted a slightly more leisurely start to the day today. We've gone with a company called Richardson's Boat Hire, and my research online said that they weren't the cheapest, but people will go on to say you definitely get what you pay for. And I have to confess, looking at some of the other day boat rental boats out on the Broads, I definitely feel like this is one of the nicer boats of them, and the service as well was really good. The guy was asking did we have any questions, and I'd said that I'd read some bits and pieces about being careful not to get caught out with the tide because that could potentially slow down getting the boat back on time, and he said that we didn't need to worry about it with where we are situated in the Broads, but also that we didn't need to worry, and if we ended up returning the boat 15-20 minutes later, that it wasn't a problem. And it's just, I suppose, that kind of service, it helps you to really feel like you're on holiday and everything can be a little bit more laid back and you're not quite so panicking about getting penalised. The guy at the Richardson's Boat Hire Company asked us, have we ever driven a boat like this before, which both of us explained, no, never. We have gone out on a boat in the Danube Delta, but it was with someone who was like our boat captain for the day, and he did allow for us to like steer it for 5 or so minutes, but we've never had that responsibility of having to do all of it ourselves. So he went through all of like the basics, or all the stuff that we really needed to know, and it is so easy. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. You've got the steering wheel, which was just like a car. It's not quite as quick as what it is in a car, however, so he was saying like don't keep on turning it because then you'll end up having to turn it back and you end up sort of zigzagging through the Broads. He said just turn it a little bit, and then if you need to turn it a bit more you can do, and that way it's just a lot easier. And that was definitely some really good advice, and that's how I've been driving it today, and I don't feel like I've been crazily zigzagging. We've got on here very helpfully a horn just in case it seems like someone on the water is not paying any attention and they're getting in our way and they're about to get run over. We've thankfully not had to use it yet, and it doesn't really seem like other Broads boat users are taking advantage of it. It's been quite nice and peaceful. One thing that I didn't realise is that we've got a heater. We've not had to use it today because we've been quite lucky in that there's enough blue skies. And that was one thing that I was a little bit worried about because this weekend's been a bit unseasonably cold, and so I've brought lots and lots of layers at the moment I'm wearing. So I've got a t-shirt on underneath here, and then I've got a long sleeve top. I've got in my bag a thick jumper, and then I've got my winter coat as well, but I haven't had to use any of that, thankfully. We've also got the wiper here, so you can see a windscreen wiper, so that if it does start to rain there's a potential forecast for a little bit later on, then it means that we can easily see out of the window too. To be able to go forwards, we've got this lever here, and you just push it forwards. If you put it up to, I suppose, at 12 o'clock as per the clock, then it's in neutral, so it's not going to go anywhere. And if you need to reverse the boat, which is difficult, and I say that from first-hand experience, then you pull it backwards, but trying to steer whilst reversing has just been very, very tricky. We tried to moor up at another place, we tried many times and failed, so the reversing has been a lot more difficult. And then the other thing that I've loved is here we've actually got a speedometer, so it all depends on where you are in the Norfolk Broads. It's anything between 3 and 5 miles an hour, so usually if you're going through the towns and the villages it's 3 miles an hour. If you're going through an area that's a broad, so it's where you sort of come off of the main waterway and you've got almost like marinas. They tend to be more like 4 miles an hour, especially when you're getting up to the junctions where there's going to be boats coming out and going off. And then 5 miles an hour, I suppose, is where there's not going to be people turning off, and there's also not people living in houses along the side of the waterways. The boat's lovely and spacious. So there's a couple of seats up front, and then there's like benches down the side of the boat and a bench across the back of the boat. What's also been nice, and again was another nice surprise, it was up there with the heater. Another concern that I had is what happens if we get really unlucky and it really starts to rain. So again, you sort of bringing things like umbrellas, and it turns out that we've actually got this roof up here that completely rolls off, and then there's also another canopy at the back that can come up, so this whole boat could be enclosed if the weather was to get particularly bad. We've sort of had a bit of a mixture between this roof having been on and off, but we've not had to put the canopy up at the back yet, and that's been really nice because you can just slip out to the back, take some nice photographs, sit out in the open breeze, and then you can come back in if you're starting to get a little bit chilly. So I've definitely been impressed with the boat, and so far, I mean, obviously it's not the end of our boat rental yet, but so far I would definitely recommend Richardson's, and I would definitely rent a boat with them again too. Norfolk Broads, I guess when we normally go to national parks 9 times out of 10 we're hiking, and this just makes it so different to places like the Lake District, the Peak District. The amount of different boats that we're seeing, so it goes all the way down to things like kayaks, canoes and stand-up paddle boards. Then you've got the really small day boats like R1, through to very modest sized overnight accommodation boats, all the way up to really quite large boats that have got several bedrooms within them. We've seen quite a few sailboats. We saw like a school of kids out on the sailboats, but we've even seen some really quite big sailboats that are quite beautiful as well. There is an ice cream boat. We saw that at about 10 o'clock this morning, so I definitely wasn't in the mood for ice cream, but I'm hoping that we might come across it again because I wouldn't mind an ice cream now this afternoon. There is also like a huge 99p cone on the front of it with like a flashing beacon, so it definitely stands out. And there's a ranger boat, which I just assumed was the police, but then later on the police went past and they like gave us a friendly wave. So I was like, oh, we can probably film them. The wildfowl, don't even get me started on that. So there are swans left, right and centre, geese left, right and centre. You've got the mallard ducks, and then a whole load of ducks that I don't even know what their names of them are. We rented this boat at Wroxham, which I think is classed as being the capital of the Broads, and the reason for that being is quite close to a train station, so people can come from cities without having a car and then transfer onto a boat from there. We've then come along to, can you remember what the name of this town is, or village is? Horning. And between the two there are a lot of trees and water reeds and what have you, and then the scenery changes again, and then you'll come into buildings, and the buildings have been so varied. Some of the newer ones I would definitely say they've been inspired by countries such as Belgium and the Netherlands, so a lot of the more modern architecture, but then we've also still got some beautiful traditional cottages here where you can see the really old wooden window frames, and you've got quite a few that have got thatched roofs as well, and it's just been incredibly varied. And I guess, like, as I say, not like any of the national parks that we're used to visiting, which are usually, certainly for me anyway, very hiking focused. This is beautiful. It's been a lovely day out so far, and we've still got a few more hours of the boat left. Voila! We've just finished our lunch here at the Cockshoot Broads, which is a place where it allows you to be able to moor up for free. And I've learned that it's mooring, not parking. I'm learning all of my boating and nautical terms today, things like port and starboard and shiver-me timbers, but anyway, we've come here because it's free. We did try another place and it was a bit of a disaster trying to get parked there, and then we realised that it was £5, so we quickly drove away because I said I'm not paying £5 just to stop for some lunch. And Turns out that this one is actually a nature reserve. So we've hopped off the boat now that we've managed to fill up our tummies. We're just gonna have a little bit of a wander. I didn't even realise that there's a nature reserve here, but we've seen people walking up and down this little pathway here. So we'll go have a bit of a nosy. It could be really, really small. It could be very, very disappointing. But since we are not parked up, since we are moored up, we might as well go and have a look. So that was incredibly short-lived. I think we must have walked maybe, I don't know, 50 metres, and just as we got to the entrance of the nature reserve, it's saying no entry. The tiny bit that we can see from here, if that's anything to go by, I think it could be quite spectacular at a time when you are allowed in, because we've got one swan that's sat up on a huge nest, obviously protecting the eggs, and then there's another one which is really hard at work. I think probably trying to pull up like pond reeds and things, I'm guessing maybe to make their own nest, or try and like improve a nest and make quite nice bedding for the baby chicks when they do finally hatch. Bit of a shame, so I guess we will take the 50 or so metres back to our boat. Off we go. Point out this is a fluke. I don't know how I've managed to get out that quickly and that slickly, because if you had seen me earlier on today, it was embarrassing. I probably shouldn't have said it. I should have just been like, yeah, I'm this good at driving a boat, reversing, turning around, going straight, crossing over. One thing I forgot to mention, unlike cars, we have to drive the boats on the right hand side of the water. Don't really know why. I don't know if it's maybe come over from continental Europe. Found the ice cream boat and there's no one on it to serve us ice cream. What a sad end to the day. I want the ice cream. Wait, but sorry. Yeah, look, he's waving us over. Turns out that they were just hidden on the next boat over, so we've just pulled up and the guy even helped us moor up the boat and tie up one of the two ropes, so we're just going to hop out, go and hopefully get some ice cream now. This is absolutely delicious and it's such a novelty getting it from an ice cream boat as opposed to an ice cream van. This place is so weird but so awesome at the same time. We went for the vanilla because it is the local flavour. It was a bargain of £2 each and it came with a flake and we didn't have to pay any extra for it. And you guys were really nice and they helped us moor up. The place that we moored up, they've got signs up saying that you've got to pay, and I think it's like £2 for an hour. But we got really confused as to where you pay for these things, and the guy who was selling the ice creams on the ice cream boat said there's a phone number that you just call, or I guess like text, and you can pay by phone. So that's what you need to do if you can't get free moorings, I guess. In the next episode, we'll be lacing up the old hiking boots and headed for the national park's coastline. We'll see wind pumps both restored and crumbled, and get more than we bargained for when hoping to maybe spot a seal or two. If you've not done so already, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can join me in my Norfolk adventures.